The Edgbaston Priory Club has hosted the greatest names the women's game has ever produced. Barty walked those grounds. Pliskova, Kerber, Zibber. They all left their footprints on that grass. But in the first week of June 2026, something happened at Edgbaston that none of those names ever triggered. Something that had nothing to do with a ranking, a prize check, or a trophy. A 21-year-old from Manila walked off court 1 after winning her Birmingham opener, and the sound that followed her off that court, the flags, the chants in Tagalog, the eruption from a crowd that had flown 8,000 miles to be there, that sound did not belong to a WTA 125 event. It belonged to something much, much larger. And to understand why that single first-round result shook Filipino social media to its core, you have to go back. Not a week, not a month. You have to go back exactly 6 days, to the worst afternoon of her clay season, and you have to understand every single thing she was carrying when she stepped onto that grass.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be back and I can't wait to be out on court and I hope to see you there.
The Edgbaston Priory Club has hosted Barty, Pliskova, Kerber, Zibber. It has never hosted a sound quite like this. Flags from a country 8,000 miles away. Chants in Tagalog bouncing off British grass. A 21-year-old from Manila standing in the middle of all of it like she had been preparing her whole life for exactly this week. But here is the thing that people on the outside are missing. The wild part is not what just happened on court 1. The wild part, the part that makes this story something worth telling from the beginning, is the 6 days that came before it. Rewind to 144 hours ago. Court 14. Roland Garros. Alex Eala was sitting in a chair after losing 4-6, 2-6 to her best friend on tour, Iva Jovic, in the first round of the French Open. The crowd had moved on. The draw had moved on. But Alex Eala was still sitting in that chair, and somewhere inside her, the clock was already ticking toward Birmingham.
Eva is such a good friend of mine.
She's definitely one of my closest friends on tour. Big hug before the match, a big hug after. No bad blood there. I'm sure there'll be many more matches and she'll get me a couple.
YS after that chair on court 14, she was on a flight to England. 219 WTA points to defend across the entire grass swing. And a seeding at Wimbledon, the first of her career, hanging by a thread, depending entirely on whether she could pull herself together fast enough to protect what she had built. But here is what made Birmingham more than just a tournament. Birmingham was not a warm-up. Birmingham was not a confidence builder. Birmingham was the door. And that door had a history with her that most people outside the Filipino tennis community had completely forgotten about. Same tournament. Same round. June 2025. Alex Eala walked into Birmingham as the number 3 seed, as one of the favorites, and walked out in 3 brutal sets to Linda Fruhvirtova, 7-5, 6-7, 5-6, reportedly battling a right foot blister that cracked open in the decider and turned the final set into something closer to survival than tennis. 2 hours and 53 minutes of heartbreak on the exact same grass she was now stepping back onto 12 months later. That ghost alone would have been enough weight for most players. But the ghost was not the only thing waiting for her when she arrived at Edgbaston. There was something else. Something louder, and in some ways, more damaging than a painful memory. Critics, particularly in international tennis media, had spent the week building a case against her. And not quietly. Tennis Head ran the headline directly, overhyped and overrated. Not a question. A statement. Their evidence was clean and uncomfortable. 1 Grand Slam main draw win on her entire career resume. A clay season in 2026 that produced exactly 1 main draw victory across all events. A doubles withdrawal in Paris with no public explanation offered to anyone. A first-round exit at Strasbourg the week before Roland Garros. A 1-5 deficit in the opening set against Jovic before she ever found her footing. Look at those numbers alone and the case writes itself. But cases built only on numbers miss the parts that matter most. And what was about to happen at Edgbaston was proof of exactly that. So she walked into Birmingham carrying 3 weights simultaneously. The collapse of her clay season. The memory of last year's blister-soaked flame out on this exact surface. And a growing chorus of international doubters waiting, almost eagerly, for her to confirm everything they had already written. Then she brought a 4th weight with her. Her own country. And this is where the story stops being about tennis and starts being about something that transcends the sport entirely. Filipino fans did not just buy tickets to Birmingham. They bought plane tickets. Flights from Manila, from Dubai, from Los Angeles, from wherever the Filipino diaspora had landed across the globe. Multiple YouTube creators documented the migration in the days leading up to the match. Filipino faces filling the Edgbaston stands, flags draped over barriers, phones raised, voices already warming up. The fan presence was so visible, so undeniably real, that the Lawn Tennis Association itself amplified it in an official Instagram reel on May 30th. Stop and think about what that means for a second. A WTA 125, the third lowest tier of professional women's tennis, drew an international migration. Not from a tennis nation. From the Philippines. A country where basketball and boxing own the cultural conversation, where tennis has never been the sport that moves the national pulse. And yet there they were. Thousands of miles from home, sitting in Birmingham in the English summer, waiting for a 21-year-old from Manila to walk onto a court and do something that had never been done before. What nobody realized in those opening days was that the weight she carried into this tournament was also the fuel she was running on. And the draw gave her no easy entry point to figure that out. Eala entered Birmingham as the number 2 seed behind Indonesia's Jessica Tjen. Her first-round opponent, wildcard Priscilla Hahn of Australia, ranked WTA number 143, arriving in Birmingham off a string of losses at ITFW 100 events in Japan. On paper, it looked like the kind of opener that top seeds handle before breakfast. Routine. Controlled. Expected. But Eala's memory does not file things under routine. The two had met before. Twice. And the most recent meeting, Ningbo qualifying, October 2024, ended with Hahn walking off the court as the winner and Eala walking off with a loss she had not forgotten. That is not a fun thing to carry into a match that the entire world expects you to win easily. A back-of-tour rivalry that most casual followers of the sport had never even heard of. Revenge stakes quietly hiding inside what looked from the outside like a straightforward opener. Compress the full timeline and the math becomes genuinely uncomfortable to look at. May 26th, Eala in tears on court 14 in Paris. May 27th, withdrawal from the Roland Garros doubles draw alongside Victoria Mboko, no public explanation given. May 28th, first grass court practice photos surface from Birmingham, she is already working. May 30th, the LTA posts their hype reel. June 1st, ball toss on court 1, Birmingham. 6 days. From the worst moment of her clay season to the first ball of her grass season. 6 days from tears at a Grand Slam to stepping onto court 1 with 8,000 miles worth of her countrymen watching from the stands. Most 21-year-olds on tour would have asked for a week to breathe. Eala asked for a court. Now here is something the international press completely missed while they were busy writing their overhyped headlines. If you were watching the Filipino fan accounts on Facebook this week, the Diane Castrojo posts, the Ralph Adrian Rizal updates, the Alex Eala fans and supporters Philippines threads exploding past 1,000 reactions per post, you already knew what was coming. You saw it before ESPN saw it. You saw it before the WTA saw it. You saw it before Tennis Head ran a single follow-up piece correcting the narrative they had spent a week building. While the international media was asking whether she was worth the attention, you were watching a Filipino kid in a Birmingham hoodie walk through the player's entrance with the look of someone who had already made a decision. Paris was over. Birmingham had started. And the rebound you had been predicting in those group chats and comment threads for days was about to become visible to everyone who had not been paying close enough attention. But what you also understood, what the doubters fundamentally missed in all of their analysis, was the arc. This is not a player who burst onto the scene and then plateaued. Connect the dots across the last 18 months and the picture that emerges is not a question mark. It is a straight line pointing upward. January, Auckland. Her first WTA 250 final. A result that turned heads in a sport that had only just started learning her name. March, Indian Wells. A quarter-final at one of the most prestigious events in the game, competing against players ranked decades above her. Then Eastbourne, last grass season, a championship tiebreak away from lifting a title on the exact surface she is now returning to. And now Birmingham. Same surface. Higher stakes. More weight on her shoulders than at any previous point in her career. This is not a streaky young player catching favorable draws and riding momentum. This is a pattern. Hard courts, grass courts, big stages. The trajectory does not zigzag. Climbs. Every time the pressure increases, she rises to meet it rather than retreating. And that is the detail the overhyped headline writers had been conveniently ignoring. Which brings everything to the moment that mattered most. Eala versus Hahn. The seed against the wild card. The player carrying the weight of a nation against the player who had beaten her in qualifying 2 seasons ago and had never quite received enough credit for it. The crowd inside Edgbaston was already electric before the first ball was struck. Flags moving. Voices already loud. A version of noise that this club had genuinely never experienced for a match at this level. And when the result came in, when it was confirmed that the opener belonged to Eala, Filipino group chats from Manila to Dubai to Los Angeles lit up simultaneously. The ghost of Birmingham 2025 had been walked off the court on the exact grass that created it. The Wimbledon math, which had looked fragile and uncertain for days, suddenly had room to breathe again. But do not take the word of the fan accounts for any of this. Listen instead to the player who handed Eala her most recent loss and who, in doing so, said more about Eala's standing in the game than any ranking number currently reflects. Iva Jovic is ranked number 17 in the world. She was seated inside the top 20 at Roland Garros. She is the player who beat Eala in straight sets in Paris exactly 6 days before Birmingham. In terms of the sport's current hierarchy, Jovic is firmly, undeniably established. And the night of that Roland Garros win, a result that moved her further up the draw of a Grand Slam, she did not post a celebration. She did not post a highlight reel or a victorious on-court photo. She went to Instagram, posted pictures of the two of them hugging at the net, and wrote, "One of those days I wish there could be 2 winners. Love you, Alex Eala." Read that slowly. A top 20 player at a Grand Slam after a straight sets win, publicly refusing to celebrate her own victory because the player she had just beaten mattered more to her than the scoreline. That is not sportsmanship for the cameras. That is genuine emotion from someone who understands, better than any pundit, exactly who she had just faced across the net. And that context sits alongside what IGA Swiatek said after her Madrid clash with Eala the previous year, that beating Eala had required a complete mental reset, that she had to adapt to a problem she was not used to solving, that the game Eala brings is not something you simply absorb and move through. When the world number 2 tells the press that you forced her to think differently, and when the player who most recently beat you tells the world she wishes she had not, the overhyped label is not a debate anymore. It is a mistake. A public one. And the grass swing that is now beginning is going to make that mistake increasingly obvious with every passing week. Because the Birmingham points are just the first domino in a sequence that runs all the way to the gates of the All-England club. Ilkley begins on June 8th. Nottingham follows on June 15th. Eala is currently sitting second on the Queen's Club qualifying list, her first real shot at that draw in her career. Eastbourne arrives on June 21st, and this is where the stakes become genuinely difficult to overstate. 118 of her 219 defendable grass points are buried in last year's Eastbourne final. 118 points that exist only because she played one of the best weeks of her professional life on that court 12 months ago. And waiting on that bracket, sitting there like a loaded gun pointed directly at the points she needs to defend, is Maya Joint, the player who beat her in the championship tiebreak at Eastbourne last summer and who will be looking to prove that result was not a coincidence. Beyond Eastbourne, Bad Homburg has already extended a wildcard offer. And then, on June 29th, the main draw at Wimbledon opens. If she protects her points across this grass swing, if she navigates Ilkley, Nottingham, Queen's, and Eastbourne without a catastrophic loss, she walks into Wimbledon seeded for the first time in her life. And here is the number that does not appear on any ranking sheet, in any press release, in any of the coverage that has been written about her this week. No Southeast Asian player has ever been seeded at a Grand Slam in the Open era. Not one. In the entire history of professional tennis since 1968, across every Grand Slam, across every surface, no player from Southeast Asia has ever been seeded at a major. The Philippines is a basketball country, a boxing country. Manny Pacquiao is the sports story the world learned. Carlos Yulo won Olympic gold in gymnastics and the country lost its mind. Tennis was never supposed to be the Philippines' gift to the world. And yet here is Alex Eala, 21 years old, standing on the edge of doing something that no player from a region of more than 600 million people has ever done in the modern history of the sport. That is not a player having a productive week. That is a tectonic shift happening in slow motion on a grass court in Birmingham, England. And the most powerful part of all of it, the detail that should silence every doubt that has been publicly aired this week, is what she did in the 48 hours between Paris and Birmingham. She did not call a press conference. She did not post a long emotional statement about heartbreak and resilience and the difficulty of the clay season. She did not request time off or signal to her team that she needed space. She logged onto Instagram, posted love back to Jovic, packed her bags, and was on a practice court in Birmingham before most people had even processed that she had lost at Roland Garros. No drama, no noise, no announcement, just work. The Filipino fans turned the bounce back into a meme almost instantly. Court 14, Paris, to Court 1, Birmingham. 6 days. No rest, no excuses, no explanation required. She did not give a single interview about resilience. She simply demonstrated it and let the results speak for everything the headlines had been questioning. Add it all up and the picture that emerges is not complicated. The plane tickets bought from Manila by people who had never attended a professional tennis match before in their lives. The overhyped headline that ran 4 days before she proved it wrong. The blister that ended her Birmingham run 12 months ago on this identical court. The Jovic Instagram post that somehow transformed a French Open loss into the most human moment of the entire clay season. And one quote, one line from Eala herself, that ties every grass court she is about to step onto this month back to a young girl in Manila with a racket and a dream pinned to her wall. Wimbledon is my favorite slam. When I had big dreams as a young girl, they were always on that court. So I'm living the dream. She did not just win a first-round match in Birmingham. She bought herself the right to keep walking toward the court she has been dreaming about since she was a child. In a week when most 21-year-olds carrying what she was carrying would have folded quietly and nobody would have blamed them for it, she showed up, played the match, won it, and kept walking. That is the only result that mattered. Now the grass swing is open. The dominoes are lined up. And the question that every Filipino fan from Manila to London to Los Angeles is already debating in those group chats and Facebook threads and YouTube comment sections is the same question that the rest of the tennis world is just now beginning to ask. If Alex Eala defends her Eastbourne points, navigates the bracket, and walks into Wimbledon seeded for the first time in her life, what round does she reach? The bold answer is quarterfinal. The honest answer is third round. The answer you actually believe is the one you need to drop in the comments right now, before the Ilkley draw releases and the grass swing shifts into its next phase. Stake your claim. Put your name on a prediction. Because the doubters are loud right now. They have the headlines, they have the statistics, they have the clay season numbers, but they do not have what you have been watching build across the last 18 months. They do not have the Auckland final, the Indian Wells quarterfinal, the Eastbourne Championship tiebreak, the Jovic post, the Swiatek admission, or the image of a Birmingham crowd full of Filipino flags cheering a 21-year-old who flew here 6 days after the worst result of her clay season and refused to let it define her. The doubters get to be loud right now.